Welcome back to Our Community. Susie Thomas visiting with Deb Shamlin, president of NAACP, and Stefan King, who is the vice president of the same. And let me just ask you one more question here. Are all racists white people?
No. That's my answer is just no.
Okay. Do you want to expound? Or no?
I'll let Deb handle that one.
Deb, what do you? Your response to that?
I think my response to that is that there are racists across the board. I don't think that they fall into any one particular category.
And the NAACP was formed to eliminate racism. So was the YWCA, let me say. That is one of their things, eliminating racism.
Well, that's one of theirs, but we were really formed to protect civil rights. We were formed to allow people equal access, to ensure that they had the liberty to vote, that they have the liberty to go to school where they wanted to go to school. You know, the work that was done by the NAACP was not done without great thought. Thurgood Marshall, when we sued Brown versus the Board of Education, that was where we began, because education levels the playing field. So the NAACP raises a piece of it. We fight against it, and we fight against it by ensuring that people's civil rights are protected. A lot of work, you know, you look at the Voting Rights Act, that is the very first thing that I think is so important. While the 15th Amendment gave people the right to vote, it took the Voting Rights Act that we're still trying to protect so that there's no voter suppression, so that you don't have to go with a picture ID that costs you $8.50. Voting is important. It matters. I always say it doesn't matter who you vote for. What matters is that you vote.
Right. Voting is what matters.
Voting is what matters. It is important that you register to vote. It is important that you become educated on the issues and select the best candidate for how you view the issue.
The NAACP is working on behalf of voters everywhere to make sure everyone has equal access to voting.
Absolutely.
And what are you doing?
The NAACP State Conference for the state of Ohio, along with the ACLU, sued the state of Ohio, and we won, so that early voting rights occurred in the last election. We continue to do poll watching. We register people to vote. On what we are focused on, very focused on this, and I think we all learned a lesson in this past election, how important your vote really, really is. And so one of the things that we are beginning to do is we are doing what we're calling snippets, which is to understand why your vote counts. People say, oh, it's just me, I don't vote. If I don't vote, it's not a big deal, somebody else will. Well, it is, and we want people to understand why. We will be educating people on the issues, and we will also be having an opportunity for people to meet the candidate. Our hope is that we will get people out, especially in the Southeast End, in wards 1, 2, and 4, to come out and vote. We want to help turn out a larger voter turnout, which then when we get to the midterm elections next year, if you're used to voting this year and you tried it, hopefully you liked it, next year you'll do it, because we have a presidential election coming in 3 more years. And that's the wonderful thing about America. We get to remake ourselves every 4 years.
And you know, Susie, it's not just that. You know, we want, as Deb had stated earlier, right, to educate, you know, our community, right, and the importance of voting, and for them to educate themselves, right, on the issues. You know, a lot of people they think that my vote doesn't count. Well, it does, right? My vote counts, right? And as we have seen in the past, if you don't vote, you have voted.
Exactly.
And we need to be encouraging one another to vote. Employers need to be making sure that people have enough time off to go vote. We need to be asking our coworkers, did you vote today, and encouraging people to vote. And if you've got a church and you've got a church van, take people out. Early voting is available. Absentee voting is available. Get out and vote. You don't have to wait till Election Day. And each of us has a responsibility to bring one with us to vote. That's important. This is not just an African American issue. This is an issue across America. And also in Canton, that we get people out to vote.
One of the other topics I think that you've really addressed, some of the violence that we've seen across the country as far as things happening with African American men, young men, and police. And what would we do without our police? But some people probably shouldn't have gone that way as a vocation. We're seeing some seeing some things. What is the relationship locally between our local police and African American men, young men, and what is NAACP doing about it?
What the NAACP did is we invited all of law enforcement in Stark County to dinner, and Mike DeWine was our guest speaker, and he talked about the importance of good community policing. What we have done in Canton is we have a relationship with the police department. Chief Lawver has been open to hear what the community has to say about policing. He is open. We have a committee that does a second review if there is a complaint. We have Andrea Perry, who is an African American woman who is the director of safety for the city of Canton. And so I think we have steps in place. What we have done, in addition to having the police departments in for dinner, is we have worked out a relationship with them. And so if there is something that occurs and you feel that is due to race, and this is not just with the police department, it's if you've been fired from your job or you were denied service, come and tell us about it. And if it is discrimination, we are going to work with you to get it resolved. And with the police department, Chief Lawver has put in implicit bias training, which has been important. He has done cultural, linguistic, and cultural sensitivity training. He's done cultural competency. So the training is there. It's not that there isn't training, but how are the officers receiving it? And so we've begun this relationship with them. We've had the community conversation, which Andrea Perry attended, and so she heard the stories that people told about how they have been treated. And what we are working very hard to have is an open line of communication, because one of the things that happens in a partnership is you've got to be vulnerable. I've got to listen to you, but then you also have to listen to me.
Yes.
And so it's been that give and take. And it is a beginning of a relationship. It's not one that's ages old, but it is the beginning of a relationship, and I believe that we are moving in the right direction.
Stefan, do you have a story? She said every young man has a story. I need to know.
Oh.
As far as driving, as far as have you ever been stopped that you feel that because you weren't speeding or you didn't have a taillight out or anything?
Actually, no.
Is that
No,
right? I'm so relieved to hear that.
no. You know, even growing up in Louisiana, no. I mean, but I just really feel that I'm divinely protected.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I have not gone down that route. You know, I haven't. And I thank God for that.
I'm so happy to hear that. I'll tell a funny story. I have a friend, you may know, he's a good friend that just recently won Cake Wars. And I don't know if you know Stephen Beatty. Do you know Stephen Beatty?
Yes.
Okay, Stephen Beatty was just recently pulled over. Turns out the policeman's daughter was a huge fan. He ended up just thanking him and getting an autograph and sending him on his way. So, yeah, that was pretty fun.
And my perspective is a little different. I have 5 sons.
And tell me about them.
And they are between the ages, well, they're over the age of 25. They are pulled over. And they've been pulled over. And it's riding through Glenmore to visit friends.
And they're not speeding.
They're not speeding.
And there's not a tail light out, and they've not got an outdated sticker on their license.
No, I will share the story that was told to us by Ed Gilbert, who is a civil rights attorney, who was driving his car through the city that he lives in, and he was pulled over, and the officer wanted to know whose car he was driving.
Oh, my gosh.
This is a gentleman who is over the age of 25 who was pulled over because he was driving an expensive car that didn't look like he should be driving. Is that unusual? No, that happens. And in the neighborhood that he was, and it's the neighborhood he lives in, driving his car.
Yeah, living in his own neighborhood, driving his own car.
And so the response to that is the NAACP was called, and the police chief there was called, and the situation was resolved. So
I would hope, like, with a great apology. Yes?
No great apology.
Oh, Dad.
I'm just doing my job.
Wow. All right, tossing this out to both of you, is there any possible way that these kinds of things can be resolved without God? I mean, seriously, if it's not the coming together of the human race, the belonging to the one human race by our Creator, who knows us, loves us, made us look the way we look, because he loves diversity. He loves lots of stuff going on, and he knows best because he made it all, and he's God and I'm not. Is there any way that this can be resolved without solving the spiritual part of this first?
No. God gave man the dominion over the earth. He gave us the power to do these things. We have to seek his guidance. And we have to be true, as Shakespeare said, to thine own self be true. When you look in the mirror, you know exactly who you are. You know exactly how and you look at other people. All right. We were talking earlier about that some people shouldn't have a job.
The particular job they have.
Or the particular. There's some plumbers that shouldn't be a plumber.
Right. Exactly.
But if you're supposed to be serving the community, serve the community, right? And don't look at just that the color of a person's skin. If you're breaking the law, you break you pay for it. That's the bottom line. That's the law. If it's the law, if it's against the law, okay, that's where we are. But without God, nothing's possible.
It seems to me that just listening to what you say, there is a spiritual thing. I totally believe in spiritual battles, and this seems to be one of them.
It is.
That seems to have gone through generation after generation after generation. No one is born caring about what color they are or what any.
That's not what God has placed in us.
The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. I have come to free the captive, give sight to the blind. So if we go back to what we know to be the gospel, and we embody the gospel, and we are the people of God, we stand on the side of right. If that is what he kicked down, opened the doors of the temple, and that's what he said.
But you would have to know that you are in captivity in order to be free. And a lot of people are in positions, right, that they are held captive and don't even realize it. But they think that it's something else, right? But that's not how God made us. God made us to be loving one another, right? And he gave us this earth, right, for us to build together, not apart, not one person that's greater than anyone else.
Well, he said, I came to proclaim the good news. And that's a piece of the good news.
Yes,
I believe that it is a piece of the good news, and I believe that God's kingdom is yet to come on this earth. And those of us who are Christian have a duty to stand on the side of right. The gospel tells us what to do.
How do people find out more about you to become involved with the NAACP?
The NAACP is open to everybody. Black, white, Asian, does not matter, Hispanic. And so what I would say is call us. We have a phone number. It is 330-970-9447, or email us, starkcountynaacp@gmail.com. Let us hear from you. Join us. This is not our struggle alone. And together, working together, we can make a change here in Canton.
Deb Shamlin, Stefan King, thank you so much for all you're doing in our community.
Thank you.
Thank you.